Hey, what's up, everybody? So this is going to be a little bit different than my normal training, and I'm going to kind of just go with the flow of this. All right. No pre-plan, just kind of wrote it up here and I'm just going to coast through it. So if you've been keeping up with my videos, you should really enjoy this one. Let's jump in. All right. So I posted recently talking about the fact that oneness is going to be at the very, very top. Okay. And the reason that we're doing this is because Pythagoras and both Plato believed that one was just a placeholder. It's just a representation of something, that it didn't have any actual value, that you're not pulling from the outside, or the beginning wasn't pulling from the outside to create two, that it actually had a different process, which is duplication. So as you can see here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the oneness at the very, very top. Now, the part that science and spirituality are both in conflict about this is that, did the oneness duplicate itself or did it divide itself? So based off of this process, we're going to talk about duplication. We're not going to talk about dividing yet. We're going to say that the oneness duplicated, aka sacrificed itself, because when you duplicate yourself, in other words, if I were to make a duplication of myself, everything within me would also be within that, and that's giving. I mean, every single person should be able to look within themselves and kind of see some areas that they wouldn't share openly with other people. It may be a walk in your life, it may be a situation that you experienced, but obviously it's within you for a reason. So the act of duplication is a powerful act. It is the act of sacrificing oneself, of giving of everything within itself to create something new, okay, with no strings attached. And I think that's the part that people kind of lose in this journey, is that when the oneness duplicated itself to become energy, it gave everything that was inside of it, but it had no attachment. In other words, there were no commandments to follow. There was no guideline to follow. It was duplication and trust. Duplication and trust. Okay, so the oneness duplicated itself and became energy. All right, at this point in time, you have two things in this existence. You have oneness, the completeness of all, and you have energy. All right, ignore everything that goes from here, because now what we're going to do is we're going to take energy and we're going to say that it did the exact same thing. Based on the fact that the oneness trusted it and duplicated itself, it also is going to trust itself and the path that came before, and it's going to duplicate itself. When energy duplicates itself, it becomes love. It becomes love. And so it followed the same pattern, duplicated itself, and became love. All right. Now, love learned the exact same thing. This is why Trinity is so important, because this happened 3 times before things changed. Love understood the exact same message of sacrifice, of giving of oneself, of duplication, and it did it again to create light. Okay. Now, this is where things start to change. This is where this pattern starts to shift just slightly, because now that it created light, light has the ability to do something none of these have been able to do before, and that is see. Light created the illusion and the understanding of being able to see things. And so therefore, light saw something. It saw that it was separate from love, and it chose in that moment to not duplicate itself, to not trust in the path that came before, but to divide itself, to keep part of itself, okay, to be attached to what it creates. And I think that this is a great example of parents. You have some parents who, they end up having kids and they view themselves as completely separate. It is their path, it is their walk, and they enjoy it and they watch it. There are other parents who consider themselves, who gave sacrifice in the way that it is not actually intended, and they divided themselves. They gave part of themselves and they stayed attached to the outcome, which means they care about every walk, everything you do. They're usually the ones that are most hard on you, not because of the fact that they want to be hard on you, but because of the fact that they feel like they gave so much into it, so much love, so much energy into this, that they're attached to the outcome. Okay, so when light decided in fear to divide itself, not to duplicate, to divide, and this is very important to understand when you start getting into quantum physics, there is a difference between dividing and duplication. There is a difference between power and multiplication. Okay, and so when light divided itself in fear because it saw something, it became time and patterns. Okay, so light shattered itself and became time and pattern. And within time and patterns, there is both the seen and the unseen. Okay, because before we even get to that, you'll see here that without time and patterns, so in other words, without this division and this creation, love cannot be seen. Okay. And that's why it is very important to understand that at this level right here, this is all feeling. This is not something that you can actually see. You cannot see the oneness. We cannot see energy, and you do not see love. You do not see love. You see the outcome the same way that we don't see an atom. We see the outcome of the event, kind of like seeing the shadow. And if we can see a shadow, then we know that the atom is there. Okay. So love ended up, So without time and patterns, you cannot actually see love. And that's a very important part of this existence. You're here to see, you're here to experience, you're here to feel. These are all things that you cannot do without the full completion of this cycle. So now that you have time and patterns created, you have unseen time patterns, and you have unseen time and seen time, and you have unseen patterns and seen patterns. Okay, this is an example of the words conscious and aware. In other words, the seen, to be consciously aware of something, to see it basically. And then you have the unseen, which is to be unconscious, subconscious, to be unaware of what is going on. And make no mistake, you create at both of these levels. You create at the seen level and you create at the unseen level. It's just a different level of creation. Okay, so at this point in time, we are now creating. And the first thing that we created that everyone can pretty much agree on outside of obviously ourselves is going to be the hydrogen atom. The hydrogen atom, or the atom in general. And the hydrogen atom was the first to be created, and it is missing something, which is a neutron. Okay, it has every element in existence has both protons and neutrons, except for the hydrogen atom. It does not have a neutron. And this is important to understand when you get into the neutron, because from a scientific side, it's a long journey of trying to understand basically the process and the PM and the distance between these things. But when you get into spirituality, you will understand very, very quickly that a neutron is love. Okay, a neutron is love. It's when you give something, a gift, to somebody else. Okay, so at this point in time, we're going to create the hydrogen atom, which we're now going to characterize as number 1. And this is very important because by characterizing this as number 1, we're going to be able to bring it back to the 1. Okay, so we now have a hydrogen atom. And now what you're going to learn is that when you have 2 atoms, the distance from the nuclei to the other nuclei. So in other words, if you have 2 atoms, there's a nuclei in the center. And so the distance from that one to another in a bonded, okay, so that's an important part here, in a bonded group is going to be the perimeter medium, which is also referred to as the covalent radius. Okay, so the covalent radius is the distance from one center to the other center of a bonded molecule. Okay, so when it comes to hydrogen, when it bonds with another hydrogen, the distance is going to be 37. Okay, it's going to be 37. And the reason that we're focusing on this is because 37 is going to be a huge part of this process. Okay, so now we have a hydrogen atom. We have 2 of them. We know that the connection between the 2 is going to be 37. I like to say that from a nuclei to a nuclei is one heart to another heart. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the center. We're talking about the place of fusion. We're talking about heart to heart. Okay, it's going to be the number 37. Now, hydrogen with its 37 and its connection is going to fuse together, and it's going to create helium. Okay, now at this point in time, helium actually has a neutron, which is why, again, if you get into the spirituality of this, what this is saying is it's saying that hydrogen now created, saw itself, bonded with itself, had an experience, and within this experience of 37 fuses together. And then according to Einstein, fusion ends up creating something new. Within that power of fusion came out something new, and the something new is going to be helium. Make no mistake, you are not seeing this happen. Okay, within that bond, basically all this is happening outside of time. It's in the unseen. It's where time doesn't exist the way that we think that it does. And so it is happening every second, every millisecond, every amount of time that you can perceive, as small as it goes. This is actually happening. Okay, things are changing all the time. Okay, so if you have hydrogen and you understand basically that hydrogen is never not connected to itself. It is just like energy. Energy cannot not be connected to itself. hydrogen cannot not be connected to itself. You can add to it, which is exactly what ends up happening. Two of them get together, it changes into something, and now you have helium. But up until that point, there is not going to be part hydrogen left over. It is going to instantly become helium because hydrogen cannot not be with itself. That's basically the key to all of existence. Hydrogen is the starting one. At any point in time that something fuses and something changes, it adds to it. But the point that it changes into something completely new, that hydrogen is completely gone. And then the process starts all over with whatever molecule you're dealing with. Okay, so everything comes from hydrogen. That's the key part here. Everything started with that one, everything comes from hydrogen. If everything comes from hydrogen, then we move up into what this actually creates. Okay, so let's look at that here. As I said, the oneness then ends up duplicating itself and becomes energy. The energy then duplicates itself and becomes love. Love then duplicates itself and becomes light. Light is the first divider. So what we are going to do is we're going to start adding some numbers to this because it's very interesting when you get into that. Okay, so we are going to say at this point in time that the oneness is going to be a 1, as we can see right here. And what we know is we know that choice, free will, is the glue that keeps everything together. Okay, although I have the ability to go out and harm another, although I have the ability to go out and go hunting and kill a deer, I understand at a level that is beyond the seen and into the unseen that what I do, what I use my energy for, comes back around to me. It's not about another. It's about when I radiate my energy. Okay, just imagine it just like Dragon Ball Z. When you shoot off, okay, it's coming back to you. So it doesn't matter whether or not it's hunting or whether it's killing of humans or whether it's stealing or whether it's cheating on a spouse. If you view it as negative and you radiate it out, it's coming back to you. This is why Indians were so prevalent in their appreciation of the animals that they killed. They hadn't gotten to a place where they could figure out how not to live without animals. But they did get to a place where they realized that what they do to another comes back to them. So they tried to change their level of appreciation to not put as much energy into their kills, but to have a higher level of appreciation. Okay, so what we're going to see here is we're going to see that that is going to be the oneness. We're now going to give it a 1, and energy, we're going to give it, and energy doesn't have, so that's going to be your 0 in essence, which is very important when you get into the alpha and the omega. Energy is neutral. Okay, I talk about this all the time when you get into that 3, 6, and 9. Energy is neutral. It is only the 1, 7, 4, which is frequency, or the 2, 5, and 8, which is vibration. In other words, when you get into vortex math, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 are all the things that are going to make up the illusions of energy. So the positives and the negatives of energy. 3, 6, and 9, the ultimate is neutral. Okay. So when you understand that energy is neutral, you now have just 1 when it comes to that, okay? Which then goes to, which creates something new, which is love, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to label love, because no one's done this before. We're going to label love as 37. And the reason we're doing that is because, like I said, from one heart to another, when it comes to the very first atom that existed, the very first bond was hydrogen. It was hydrogen to hydrogen. And in 37 is the number that is revealed, that I'm believing that love is the representation of 37. 37 is the representation of love. Okay. And when you do this, some profound stuff ends up showing up. Because if you take love and you refer it to 37, so we have 37 here, we're going to bring it over here, it's going to be 37. And light then ends up becoming 27. 37 plus 27 gives you 64. So let's jump over here real quick, and we'll see here that we've got ourselves a 64 square cube. Okay, and so as you can see, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 up and down. The part that I want you to understand is that you can only ever see 3 sides of a six-sided cube. Okay, you can only ever see 3 sides. If I'm looking at like this, I see the top, I see the left, and I see the right, but I cannot see the bottom, and I cannot see the back, and I cannot see that, the other side of that. Okay, there are always 3 sides that are not viewable to you. And ironically, if you were to count them with the 64 squares, you would actually see, because of course we're going to do, okay, so if we were to go ahead and fill them in kind of thing, this one's going to connect to this one. So then we would just jump to these right here. Same thing. These are going to be touching these. These are going to be touching these. So then we take these ones right here. Okay. And if we were to add those up, we would end up with 37. So at all times of you viewing a cube, you can only ever see 37. Okay. Which leaves 27 unseen. It means there's always 27 that is unseen. Now, this is very interesting because at this point in time, ironically time, you can take the seen or the unseen message, the conscious or the unconscious message. You can view this cube and say that the 27 unseen is something to fear, something that is scary, something you don't understand. And that is one option. And many people do this. Or you can view it as something positive. You don't know what it is. And so it is up to us to make a choice, which is the whole point of this whole entire thing. It's going to come full circle to understanding that the only power you truly have and the most important power that you truly have is choice. Okay. So at this point in time, you see 37, you cannot see 27, which gives you your 64 squares. I also wanted to bring this to a chess board because a lot of people like to say that we're living in a game. And a great example of that would be a chessboard, because a chessboard is 8 by 8, which gives you 64 moves. And when you, or 64 squares. And when you get into chess, you'll actually see a lot of vortex math is found within chess. Okay, but back to the cube. So what we can see here is we have 37 seen, 27 unseen. The only way you are ever going to be able to see what is unseen is to change your perspective. Okay, if I'm looking at a cube from this direction, I need to move to this direction. If I want to see what's on the other side, I need to actually look over what's on the other side or move around to this side. The whole entire point is that change your perception by 90 degrees and everything you look at changes. Change your view by 90 degrees and the things that you view are going to change. This is quantum physics 101. Okay. So what it's saying is it's saying that you need to change your perspective, your vantage point. How do you change your vantage point? You choose something different. You look at the situations in your life and you ask yourself this one question: what if I was wrong? What if the person who taught me was wrong? What if the person who taught me didn't have all of the knowledge, but I held on to it as though it was complete? What happens if I'm missing chapters of the books of things that I believe are 100%? That's all you have to do. Because if you do that, then you go on a journey of trying to fill in those blanks. If you believed that Christianity was right all along, pick up the Quran. It does not mean you have to become Muslim. It does not mean that you have to go that path. But there is nothing wrong with picking up a book. There's nothing wrong with reading something that you've never read before, going down a path you've never gone before. And the only reason that people are afraid of that is because every single path teaches you if you don't stay on the path, then you open yourself up to darkness. They're not lying. It's unseen. It is darkness, but it is your choice what is in that darkness. It is your choice to bring a light with you and shine it the whole way through, which is what nines is. It's a light. It's a guide. You carry it in every single situation that you go into. When you're reading the Bible, you look for nines. When you're reading the Quran, you look for nines. When you're reading the Kibbaline, you look for nines. It's fascinating when you look at the Kibbaline because you'll see 7 hermetic principles, 2 for each one. You know, it's all about that balance of 9. And when you understand that, especially when you start to understand the cube, because the cube is all about nines. All right. The resolution, or basically your degrees of what you can see within a cube, is 2,160. 2,160 is the diameter of the moon. It's all connected once you see it. So let's go ahead and put it together. Are you ready? All right. So this is your world. You live within sacred geometry. Everything you see is aligned with sacred geometry, and everything that you see is aligned with 9. Okay, whether it's numbers, dates, names, words, letters, or shapes, it is all going to align with the digital root of 9. And the reason is because at the very beginning, when we started creating time and patterns, we created numbers, and numbers, according to this system here, okay? Again, I don't live on another planet, so I'm not going to tell you that this is going to work on another planet. I'm only going to tell you it works here because we live according to the base system. Okay? That means that if I add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I'm going to get 45. And 4 plus 5 is going to bring you right back to 9. If I were to even erase the 9, in other words, to bring it into the unseen, and this is the powerful part about the seen and the unseen. When I erase it and I remove it and I bring it into the unseen, I still end up with 36, and 3 plus 6 is 9. Tesla was not joking when he said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency, and 3, 6, and 9 are the key to it. Okay? 3, 6, and 9 are the key to this whole process. All right, so let's bring it all the way back. If the oneness is now considered, in other words, count, it is 1. We now have numbers. We're going to add it. We're going to say that is 1. We're going to say energy is 0. Okay, which is very important too, because when you get into the Aurora Borealis, you will see that 0 and 9 are interchangeable. So energy is 0, which means that you have 1 and then you have 0, which you're not going to add on to it because 0 has 0. It is neutral. Therefore, if love is 37, you now have a completion of 1, 3, and 7. 1, 3, 7 is the fine structure constant. It's the alpha, whether we're talking about the number 1, 3, 7 as the alpha, or 1, 3, 7, 6, 4, and 9, which is that 0 at the very beginning. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing. When you get down to a plant and you see that when the light hits the chlorophyll, it ends up generating everything and creating basically everything that the plant needs. That's a choice. That's 1, 3, 7. And in fact, the molecules aligned in a plant end up adding to 137, the exact same way that your hemoglobin blood molecule also equals 137. The blood of life, the nature of life, these are all interconnected. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and take light and love, or love and light, and we're going to divide it by each other because we gave it numbers. 37 divided by 27 is 1.37. Okay, 1.37. The whole entire point of this existence, why you're here, is to choose, is to get right back to the moment that you chose the first time. Okay, love is not about sacrificing by dividing. It's not about dividing your time. It's not about dividing your energy. It's about duplicating yourself. It's about vibrating so high in a relationship that you literally duplicate. You become the cup of energy that everybody has been searching for all these years. You become the Holy Grail. You duplicate yourself. And ironically, if you go, there's a movie out there that's called The Prestige. And when you go and you watch it, you'll see the exact same message. And when you read the Bible, you'll see that Jesus was in one location and then suddenly in another location, as if there were two. No, I'm not saying that this is a literal thing. I'm saying that these things were trying to explain something to you. Duplication of yourself, of your energy, is the most powerful thing that you can do. But you cannot duplicate unless you cannot combine these two things. Okay, love and light are not opposites of each other. They're different, not less. They're different, not less. Okay, time and patterns, they're different, not less. We made the mistake of thinking that when something is opposite, the only way to balance it is to have it be less than the other side. That's why we made the mistake of thinking the opposite of love is fear. The opposite of love is just the unseen. If you really want to get down to it, it's the light that is not seen. That would be considered the opposite of love. But its requirement, its duality, its duplication was light. Okay. And the coolest part about understanding this is that the oneness duplicated itself and it trusted what it created. And the energy duplicated itself and it trusted what it created. And the love, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Mother, Maiden, Daughter, any of the other combinations of trinities, of threes, okay? Love duplicated itself and became light. Light saw something. For the first time, it saw something and it became afraid. And because it became afraid, it didn't duplicate itself. It divided itself, keeping a part of itself at all times safe, at all times connected, so it can pull back at any point in time, which is what we keep talking about with the universe, is it not? We keep talking about the universe is breathing out, and then it's going to breathe right back in and pull everything in. And maybe that is the case with the physicality of this world, but there's a place above that. Notice the pyramids are missing the very top part. The very top part is missing. Why? Because we haven't understood this yet. There are two different levels that we're talking about. There's the oneness and energy, which is the 137, which is love, which is unconditional, which is how you connect to nature. It's how you connect to each other. And then there's the next level, which is where you end up bringing love and light into this world. And as soon as you decide that you don't want to love someone because of something you see, now you're living within time and patterns. And make no mistake, time and patterns will kill you. The seen patterns of life and the seen time of life is going to end your life. It is only when you live in the unseen. It is only when you get back to the ultimate level of trust, the oneness that started this whole process, that you then find the kingdom of God, that you then find no more fear. And if you want to see what it's like to live this world fearless, start understanding this. Because if you think you're powerful now, it's a game changer. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I was able to explain it. If you do follow it, you're going to start to see this is all going to bring science and spirituality together in a way that we've never seen before. And it was Tesla who said it. As soon as science starts looking into the metaphysical, the unseen, okay, you make the mistake of thinking that it means that it's unconscious and unaware. No, it means that there are things in the unseen that are unconscious and unaware, but that it is the unseen that has the most power, because the unseen brings you all the way back to love. All right, keep your 9 vibes aligned.